Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. When it comes to saving for your future via tax-advantaged accounts, you have two primary options. You have the traditional and you have the Roth. And these options are available whether you use an individual retirement account, an IRA, or an employer-sponsored plan. Think a 401k, a 403b, a 457, or the government-sponsored TSP. And while these account types have the exact same contribution limits, whether you opt for the Roth or for the traditional variety, $22,500 for the employer-sponsored plans and $6,500 for IRAs in 2023, and both are slated to increase marginally for the year 2024 to $23,000 and $7,000 respectively. Whether you opt to use the traditional or the Roth or both, they're both wonderful options because they are both tax advantaged. They have a lot of similarities, and the primary difference between the two is when you pay taxes. When it comes down to the traditional, you contribute pre-tax dollars, then once you reach retirement, that money comes out and you have to pay taxes on it. When it's the Roth version, you contribute money you've already paid taxes on, so post-tax dollars, then once you reach retirement, you can take that money out completely tax-free. So the biggest question is, do you want to pay taxes now or do you want to pay taxes later? I guess the question really comes down to, when do you think you'll be in a higher tax bracket? Now or later. Generally speaking, if you think you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire, the traditional account might be the better choice. However, if you think you're in a lower tax bracket now during your working years and will retire into a higher tax bracket, then the Roth might be the better choice. And if you end up being in the exact same tax bracket during your working years and your retirement years, well, then it's a complete wash in terms of taxes owed. And it really doesn't matter whether you choose the traditional or the Roth. The taxes you pay are going to be the same. And even though both of these account types have the exact same contribution limits, and intellectually we know we can contribute the exact same amount to them, the Roth has a way of tricking us into saving a little bit more, and it comes down to when you pay taxes on your contributions. For instance, let's say we have a worker who makes $100,000 a year with the goal of putting away $15,000 into their employer-sponsored 401k. Sure, the taxes for every state and city do vary, but we can roughly say that this worker would have a monthly income of about $6,500. So if our worker has a goal of putting away $15,000 a year, or 15% of their pay, and they spread that out equally over the months, they would be putting away $1,250 a month. Let's first look at a traditional account. So if our worker is putting away $1,250, that's going to reduce their pre-tax monthly income from about $8,300 to about $7,000 because these contributions are made with pre-tax dollars. Ultimately, that's going to leave them with a monthly workable budget of about $5,600 after their contributions to investments. In this situation, this 15% is truly 15% of their income, and it reduces their tax burden today by reducing their taxable income and giving them a greater take-home pay to work with. For many people, this is a big perk of the traditional account. For people who find themselves living paycheck to paycheck, contributing on a pre-tax basis gives them greater take-home pay to work with. It gives them a bigger paycheck to work with. And this can be a huge point and go a long way into being one of the reasons why people make contributions to these accounts. Now let's look at the Roth account. Again, our worker has that pre-tax monthly income of about $8,300. Then taxes come out of their paycheck and they're left with about $6,500 to work with. Now they can make their contribution to that Roth account. They put away that $1,250 and that leaves them with about $5,250 to work with as a monthly budget. It's because this contribution is made with post-tax dollars. Now, at first glance, if we're just considering the dollar amount saved, it might seem like this worker is still saving 15% of their income, but they're actually saving more. And that's because this contribution comes after they've already paid taxes on their income. If we break down the savings rate after factoring in taxes, if a worker is making $100,000 a year and contributes $15,000 to a traditional employer-sponsored retirement plan, their savings rate is 15%. Whereas if they contribute that same amount but to a Roth account, their savings rate is actually closer to 19% of their pay. So yes, while you're technically saving the same amount in both the Roth and the traditional example, you're actually saving a greater percentage when it comes to the Roth because it took earning more dollars to save that amount. And this is an important distinction to make because while it may seem like you're contributing the same dollar amount to a traditional versus a Roth, you're actually contributing a little bit more when it comes to the Roth. You're working a little bit harder. So we can't say that you're contributing the exact same amount. It's not an apples to apples comparison. And it's precisely because this little bit extra that you end up paying in taxes each and every year prior to your Roth contributions, that if you end up in the same tax bracket in retirement and in your working years, that you end up paying the exact same in taxes overall. Because with a traditional account, you just delay paying all your taxes until your retirement years, whereas with the Roth, you pay a little bit of those taxes every single year. Not to say that one is better than the other, just the timing of when you foot the bill is different. Now, I'm a huge fan of all tax-advantaged accounts, whether it's a Roth or a traditional, and that's simply because it allows your money to compound and grow more quickly, because you're not having to pay taxes on your investments on an annual basis. And whether a traditional or a Roth is the better choice, that comes down to your personal situation. But I love this quote that I saw from a CFP, which was, if you're unsure of what to do in your situation, the tiebreaker should often be in the Roth account's favor. Personally, I do tend to favor the Roth a little bit more, and there are 4 primary reasons as to why. You're a prodigious saver. As our example showed, while these accounts do have the same contribution limits, if you're contributing the same dollar amount to these accounts, you're actually hitting a higher savings rate when you use the Roth variety. Tax-free withdrawals in retirement. I think having access to tax-free money once you retire is a huge perk. When you look at your account balance, you know that every dollar in there is yours to keep. You don't owe a portion to Uncle Sam. And no matter how you take money out of this account in retirement, whether you do larger lump sums or smaller monthly withdrawals, whatever it may be, that money is yours. And your withdrawals don't impact your income. And that can be a really big perk because your income in retirement does influence the taxes you end up paying on your Social Security or certain Medicare premiums. You get to decide if and when you take withdrawals. When it comes to traditional accounts, they are subject to RMDs, or required minimum distributions, which are certain amounts that you have to take out every single year depending on your age and the overall value of your account. On the other hand, when it comes to the Roth variety, they are not subject to RMDs, meaning the government doesn't come along and tell you you have to take this amount out of your account every single year. Instead, you get to decide how much you withdraw from this account and when you withdraw from this account. And I like the freedom in that. Depending on what your income streams look like in retirement or your other investments, you might find yourself in a position where you don't need to take withdrawals from these accounts. So having the option to leave it invested is a great perk. Your beneficiaries won't be taxed. If you end up leaving a Roth account to your beneficiaries, they won't be taxed on the money that's in these accounts. On the other hand, if you leave a traditional account to your beneficiaries, they will be taxed on the balance in these accounts. And if your goal is to leave an estate to your heirs, you probably want to reduce the tax burden that they're gonna face when you pass it on. So if you can invest in a way that allows you to pass these funds on free and clear of any taxes, that's pretty nice. It is important to keep in mind that when it comes to the Roth IRA, there are income limits to be aware of. The good news is that these income limits are not in place when it comes to the Roth version of employer-sponsored plans. But even if your income is beyond these limits, you could utilize something like the backdoor Roth to make sure your funds actually got into this Roth IRA if it's something you're interested in. Keep in mind there are situations in which the traditional is a better choice. The 2 most obvious would be if, one, say you're in your peak earning years and you know you're going to retire into a lower tax bracket. Well, that would allow you to reduce your tax burden today and ultimately foot that tax bill when you're in a lower tax bracket. So that would save you money. Or if you're someone who is struggling to find room in your paycheck to contribute to investments, contributing to these accounts on a pre-tax basis allows you to have a bigger take-home pay to work with. Generally, I just tend to think that you get a little bit more control with your Roth dollars than you do with those dollars in the traditional account. But I do think both of these options are wonderful options. And keep in mind that you don't have to choose one or the other, a Roth or a traditional account. You can invest some of your dollars into a Roth and you can invest a portion into a traditional account. So in this way, you're kind of splitting the difference. And this can come in handy because none of us really know what taxes are going to look like in the future, or how the rules on these accounts may change in the future. Ultimately, if you're saving and investing for your future, that's the most important thing. Choosing the account type, that might be the second most important thing. What's your favorite account type? How do you divvy up your investing dollars? Let me know your answer in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.